Welcome back to Tennessee Mornings. It is now 7:13. The tragic school shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut is raising many questions about the mental state of the shooter. Here to talk with us more about that and some of the red flags that parents out there need to be aware of is Centerstone mental health counselor Susan Gillpatrick. Good to see you, Susan.
Good to see you, Nick.
So from what you know about Adam Lanza, the shooter in this case, were there any red flags?
There are always warning signs. If somebody's going to be this violent, it never just happens out of nowhere. Always there are warning signs. So in looking at youth violence in general, I'll tell you some things to look for. Basically, these folks have difficulty expressing negative emotions. So they're angry, they're frustrated, they feel like they're the victim themselves. So violence is a means for them to express that anger that is obviously destructive. They can also express it in manipulation and control. So they feel like they're the victim. Other people have it's their fault while their life is in trouble. They feel there's no solution to their problem. So in order to get back at other people who they feel it's their fault while their life is the way it is, that's why they act out violently. So
for parents watching right now and they're concerned, what are my kids saying? What are they doing? How should I talk to them about this if they are having any problems? Obviously, communication is a big thing, but also how important is social media, looking at their pages, and because sometimes they lash out on their own pages, right?
Well, it can be fascinating and alluring to follow violence in social media, in movies, and video games. So monitor what your child or what your teen is attracted to and talk about that, because that is another warning sign, are folks who are really interested in, captivated by violence, because it's popular. Hollywood sells violence, and it's a learned behavior. So if you grow up in that environment where that's just the way it is, and your access to weapons, access to increased drug and alcohol use, no problem-solving skills, no personal parent-child relationships to deal with difficulties in everyday life, all those are little things that can contribute to somebody being violent later on.
I know it came out that Adam Lanza, the shooter, had Asperger's syndrome, which is kind of on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit what that is, and never heard of that being associated with violence.
Because it's not. It's not. Asperger's is a spectrum within the autism category, where kids have problems with communications, with social interactions, and they're typically fixated on different particular interests. And they like repetitive behaviors. Now, they may be a little more prone than the average child to anger outbursts and tantrums, but that does not equate to them picking up a gun, plotting, planning, manipulating, and carrying out a violent act, like taking a gun to a school. So there's really no relationship whatsoever.
Can anything be done here? We hear gun control. What about the mental state in detecting this, and HIPAA laws and things like that?
Be aware, do not be afraid to report when you suspect an odd behavior in anybody, a child or an adult. Two things: report to somebody you know, report to somebody they know the odd behavior that you see. Say, they cannot deal with their anger. They're on a daily basis, they're fighting, they're obsessed with violence, they are in conflict all the time with anybody in their life. Report that to somebody in their life, meaning their teacher, their coach, their pastor, in workplace. Report to the supervisor. So report these things, because in all the cases there are warning signs along the way.
Sure.
If you report it to somebody who can do something about it, they can get that person in front of a mental health person to assess them to actually see that. So don't be afraid to report that.
Okay. Susan Gillpatrick with Centerstone, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Have a good day.